Hello, hello.
All right. Hello. Hi. Should I just get started or are we waiting for anyone else?
No, this is a pretty good showing, and I'll admit people as they come in if we need to.
Okay, very good. And these are students from
All over various design universities. There are student ambassadors, and they're working on their personal projects right now for the program. And so we thought that your amazing high quality rendering would be super helpful for showing them how to present work more effectively.
Very good. And we have about 90 minutes, right?
Yep.
Okay, very good. Okay. Well, hi, everyone. My name is Eric Stoddard. I am an automotive design consultant for Gravity Sketch. I have a pretty long career in the auto industry. I've been a designer at, most recently, Ford. I was at Ford for 10 years. I was at Hyundai Motor. And I was also with Chrysler. So had a lot of different experiences working on a lot of different brands, and worked on exteriors, interiors. But throughout my career, I've been trying to, I've always leveraged 3D as part of my design process, as part of my creative process, because I always felt it gave me a lot more control over the outcome. Whenever I did a really hot sketch and it got turned over to a clay modeler, to a digital modeler, oftentimes it would take a different direction depending on the modeler or depending on the input I was getting from the team. And I just felt like having a bit more grasp of the three-dimensional creation process would give me that much more sort of power and leverage. And also the ability to visualize, not just in a hot sketch, but in like, what is this thing really going to be? What is it really going to look like? And so working in 3D has been something that I've always been interested in. I've always tried to get into 3D as early as possible. And so when Gravity Sketch came along, and you could now sketch directly in 3D, like not just build models, but actually sketch in 3D, and to see things in one-to-one scale before you commit to milling a full-scale clay model or a 1/5 scale clay model. But to see things in one-to-one scale, to work on exteriors and interiors holistically, it was just a complete game changer for me. And so I really took it on during my last couple of years at Ford, and then decided to start teaching it. And that sort of led to this great relationship with Gravity Sketch. And now I'm a consultant with Gravity Sketch. I get to work with car companies all over the world. I get to work with students all over the world. And so it's a lot of fun. So yeah, today I'm going to take you through a just kind of a high level synopsis of my process, and with a focus on the sort of back end, finishing process of just how I get to a completely finished model, and how I leverage some of Gravity Sketch's tools to achieve a much higher degree of realism, photorealistic image quality, which is surprising to most people, because a lot of people feel like they need to kick out images to like VRED or Blender or Unreal to get like much more realism in their final images. There's a lot you can do right within Gravity Sketch to achieve a much greater degree of realism. Plus, you can bring people into the creative experience immersively, and they can experience exactly what you're experiencing. So with that, I'm going to get started. Any questions before we get started? No? Okay. Okay. So here you can see I've got a bunch of 2D sketches on the wall. I'm going to be starting a sort of a electric crossover SUV. And it looks like I need to re-enter the workspace. Just a second here. Got booted out. Okay, so you can see me coming into the room here. And you'll see that I'm actually looking at myself from a third-person perspective. That's because I'm using our new Screen Collab feature. So if you're familiar with Collab, it enables multiple designers to go into the same virtual space and work together collaboratively. We also have a new screen collab feature where people can observe and join collab sessions from a desktop. So I've actually got these sort of preset camera views. Plus, I can also follow my own headset. So it's pretty cool. So I'm going to be kind of leveraging these tools. But anyway, just getting started. I have a series of sketches that I've done, just of varying degrees of from everything from quick thumbnail sketches to a fairly complete marker sketch. And what I want to do is start to execute one of these sketches. I really like this sketch because I just love the silhouette of it. Plus, it leaves enough to the imagination. So I'm going to, first of all, I'm going to show you the rig chassis tool if you haven't seen it already. The rig chassis is if you're in automotive design, this is our main sort of toolkit for establishing the scale of a vehicle. And so you can either grab the handles and just play around with the dimensions. You can also play with tire size and tire silhouette, or you can type in specific dimensions right into the menu here. We also have different presets here. You can see it's kind of hard to see here. Okay, so yeah, I just noticed it's not showing up in the shared UI. So anyway, so I have this, and then we can also bring in mannequins as well to establish scale. So really, those are the two main sort of elements that you have to establish the scale of anything, of a vehicle or any other human scale object. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to switch to a front 3/4 view. Yeah. So yeah. So you can see where I can grab an image from the wall here. Let's see here. I'm going to grab this guy here. I'm going to duplicate it, and I'm going to set it onto its own layer. Lock the other layer, and then you'll see where I'm basically just going to scale it up to match the tires. Just using the tires as a reference. And then using Smart Move, I'm just gonna push the sketch towards the mirror plane, and it'll just snap to the vertical position. Because this is a pretty cheated sketch, I'm actually gonna just lift it up a little bit. And then I can take that layer, and I can just give it some transparency. So now it's transparent. And let me just give myself here, put the mannequin on a new layer. And then from there, I can just simply grab the mannequin. You can see I have some control points. I can quickly position the mannequin. Grab multiple control points. So if I want to move the legs simultaneously, I can do that. This is a kind of a crossover vehicle, so I do want it to be fairly upright in the seating position. And then I can just move it to the side here, and maybe make a copy of it, move it back, make a rear passenger. Now I have myself a nice vehicle package. Vehicle package refers to the architecture of a vehicle. It's the dimensional measurements of the wheels, tires, and overall platform relative to the human scale. And that's really important for establishing scale. So I actually did create a proper package off of a leading electric vehicle, one of the EV startups. And what I've done is I've placed a cube shape or rectangular cube shape beneath the floor that represents a battery pack. So this would be like an electric SUV. The Fisker Ocean is the reference vehicle. And so so from there, I'm just gonna go into follow my headset here, and from there, I'm just gonna do a quick sketch. So I'll start in planar mode just to establish the silhouette of the vehicle. Let me lock the side view layer. You can see I can edit these lines as I go. Ali, feel free to join me in collab if you'd like.
Will do. Give me a sec.
You can see I'm just establishing all of the sort of main character lines. Gabby, do we have a chat forum where people are asking questions?
As they type questions in the chat, Mariah or I will read them out for you. But right now, I think they're very engaged and immersed in this.
Okay, great. Yes, please
Oh,
feel
okay,
free.
we got one.
Great.
Thank you, Anastasia. So she's asking, when creating the character lines, what do you look for, or what makes it have successful character in the vehicle for you?
Oh wow, that's a tough one. I mean, it's a tough question to quantify, but it's really just how does it feel? And you know, I like to personally have a lot of visual movement, kinetic energy. I think it's very important that the vehicle looks like it's kind of in motion while standing still. So you'll see I do things like you know, I'll have wheel arches that aren't quite round.
And for those of you in the call, Eric is a huge proponent of having your own individual sketch style. We're hoping to do another class on that a little bit later, because we know that design tools can sometimes take your personal touch out of the final product. And so we're looking at ways to kind of bring your guys's individual style into stuff, especially when it comes to automotive, where everything has to be so technical. So just know that that's something we have in the pipeline, and it's something that Eric is a huge fan of.
Yeah, so now that I've got the side view kind of figured out, what I'm going to do now is start to take some of those character lines and bring them outward and bring them out in space. And as I do that, I'm going to be giving some dimension to those lines. So not only are they working in side view, but they're also working together in various 3/4 views as well.
Eric, I have a question if you don't mind.
Yes.
How do you get the lines to be so clean and so nice? Like, is it a lot of practice mainly, or is there a setting for your stroke tool that you have to make sure that all your lines are pretty smooth?
Yeah, so we do have Let me just go into the settings here. A lot of it is just simply being smooth. Yeah, so I think as far as I know, there's no real setting in the lines. But using the planar stroke is really helpful. You know, you can see I'm just using my whole arm. You know, if you try to use your whole wrist, if you use just your wrist, you can have kind of a squiggly line. But if you sketch planar, you'll have pretty good control of your line. Plus, you can always edit your lines. So, you know, if I turn on my edit points, I can change those lines. I can also reduce the number of control points just by hitting simplify points, and you can. So even if your line isn't right the first time, and I think that's part of it too, is because I know I can edit the line, I'm not so worried about being perfect. So it's just a little bit easier to get it dialed in.
Sweet. Thank you very much.
Yeah. A lot of it comes just with lots of practice.
I'll start working on the back graphic over here while you're doing that.
Yeah. And then as I bring lines out in space, I can also tilt them so they can have a lot more dynamic character. And then I can also sketch on different planes. So I can take my drawing plane, I can turn it 90 degrees or turn it horizontal. So now, for example, here I'll switch to my front 3/4 view. You'll see how I can start to sketch.
And as they're working, just as another side note, this screen collab feature that Eric is showing too, this might be something that's super helpful for you guys to use as you are completing trainings on your school sites. So as you're helping other people learn how to use Gravity Sketch, this would be a really great tool to use. So if you're interested in kind of getting access and learning how this part of it works, just pop something in the Slack for us and we'll make sure that we get you all those resources, because this is a total game changer in terms of being able to show people stuff without being in headset.
And you can see Ali here, he's doing a rear view.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out something.
Yeah. So yeah, it's starting to take shape. So one thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to start, I'm going to kind of grab everything, and you can see Ali's already sketching symmetrically. So I'm just going to grab everything and just mirror it. And you do have a mirror tool, so you can sketch symmetrically if you want. Now I do have, you know, as reference images, I have a lot of different sketches here, and I'm basically just trying to capture the character of some of these sketches.
Now, Eric, I have a personal workflow question for you. When you are working, in your opinion, is it easier to sketch one side and then mirror it, or do you like to see the whole thing coming together as you're developing the bones?
Usually I have symmetry turned on right away. sometimes I forget. But sometimes it is nice to see just one side of the car, because it, you know, sometimes if you're seeing both sides of the car together, it can be a bit distracting. So I'm just doing some line editing here. So that's the other thing, is you can always edit the lines, and you can add more control points. So overall, I'm pretty happy with the exterior. I did do some interior sketches. So in my layers here, I can turn off my exterior sketches and turn on my interior sketches. And there's this sketch here that I thought was really interesting. This one on the upper left here. And so, you know, one of the things that I think is a real game changer about working in gravity sketches, you can also design the interior and the exterior holistically. So if I start a new layer, turn my planar setting off again. So now I can start to sketch I can just take these lines and duplicate them down. I just basically want to have kind of a nice screen. And then I can go asymmetrical with the driver and kind of capture this driver focus cockpit area. I'm just keeping it super loose. We can always tighten it up later. But now you can see I've already captured the essence of this sketch here. And if I want to, I can kind of create a skin surface to kind of hide some of those areas behind. And I'm just freehanding it right now, keeping it super loose. And you can see now I'm starting to capture those
And Ali, you can jump in and talk about stuff too. I'm sure
Yeah,
they
of
would
course.
love to hear some
Yeah,
of your
yeah.
experience coming from Stellantis.
Yeah, so I was at Stellantis for about 6 years. I've touched numerous brands: Dodge, Chrysler, Ram, Maserati, Alfa Romeo, and yeah. Sorry, I got lost in the sketch here, but I'm working on some interesting roof cut lines, panels, maybe for the glass here. And I kind of sketched out a rear diffuser area, gave it a kind of a sporty look here, and has a nice, really chiseled rear end. But yeah, Eric's sketch is really dynamic, and I just try to add on to that.
So once I've got a pretty good idea of the shape that I want, then it's time to go in and do some surfacing. Let me just fix a couple of things here. Let's come back a little bit. Yeah, okay. So now I'm going to start to get into some surfacing. I'm going to change the environment settings a little bit here. Get a little more contrast in this environment.
So the best part, in my opinion, it's when it comes alive.
Yeah. So the way I like to start surfacing, and actually maybe I'll just bring back the exterior sketches so I can I'll just bring the side view back. I'll put that on a new layer. So I kind of have this idea of what I want in the surface. So what I like to do is start with a ribbon stroke, and I switch it to sub D. I'm going to pick a kind of a silver shader. How many of you are familiar with Blender or Alias sub D or Maya? The common thread, if you're familiar with those programs, is they're polygonal modeling programs. So just like in Blender or Maya or Alias sub D, you have surfaces that are comprised of edges, points, or faces. And then you can look at it in a polygonal view, or you can look at it in a smooth view. And then you can also grab edges and just pull surfaces out from those edges. You can grab entire rows of edges and pull surfaces out. If I go to the smooth view, you can see I get this nice smooth shape. If I add additional edges, I can add sharper creases. I can change the character of a curve. So the reason I like to use the ribbon stroke is now I can sort of follow the character lines of the vehicle, starting with the main shoulder. Leave it in the polygonal view. You can still add additional edges within that shape. And now I'm just going to go in and start pulling additional surfaces out, just following those character lines. There, you can see I'm not following exactly the curves that I made. And that's because when you start to get into actually surfacing, you'll find that a lot of things just don't look the same. When you get into the way light travels across surfaces. So you can see I'm trying to get this area to capture light. I'm trying to get this area to capture light. You can see I'm already starting to capture the flavor of that surface.
And while Eric's doing that, he's maintaining 4 vertices on each surface. I think that's one of the more important things about sub D for the structure of the modeling.
Ali, can you elaborate on why that's so important, especially in automotive?
Yeah, so that ensures continuity between the surfaces. Let's say you have a 3-sided surface next to a 4-side. That 4-side surface won't translate well into that 3-side surface, and it will lose its continuity. So it's important, especially when you're working on a character line or like a larger element on the body side. If you don't have continuity, then the reflections could give you an undesired result.
Thank you.
So you can see I'm starting to capture the flavor of the sketch. I'm starting to capture those light areas along with this sharp edge on the shoulder area. And then from there, I can start to add some wheel flats. If I just add a couple additional edge loops, you can see I'm starting to get that nice, a nice sharp edge on the rear wheel arch. Now this area is a little bit trickier because the wheel flat may not actually want to follow the surface here. So
Could have a secondary material there or like a
a little scoop or something.
scoop, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, so now I have this little hole forming.
Yeah, that could be really cool. Is there any questions so far?
Hey, this is Lou. I have actually a generic question about automotive design.
Mhm.
So I'm not really familiar with the industry, but I'm just curious. In terms of design, do you guys work with engineers? Do they say like, "Oh, I love your design, but we don't have an engine fit in there"? How does things work within the company? And like you work with maybe engineers and designers in between.
Well,
Yeah, so it's
Okay.
definitely a collaborative process. And we do have to work to specific requirements. It's very, it's mind-boggling how many engineering considerations there are. But it's best if it's done kind of collaboratively from day one. Versus designers and engineers working kind of in silos. There are certain areas where it's almost impossible to negotiate. I consider it a process of negotiation. Everything is negotiable, but at what cost, right? Some things can be negotiated with an engineer and it has very little impact on the cost or the feasibility. But other things have great cost. Anything that would affect the safety of the vehicle or anything that would affect the cost to build it. You can see now I'm adding some glass.
Jack, why don't you go ahead and ask your question too? I see your hand up.
I was just going to ask, I just applied for the Gravity Sketch education specialist position, and I was curious, how have you both adapted your vocabulary or industry experience to support students in automotive and kind of in other industries?
Well, I work primarily with designers already in the industry, and I just, my job is to train them at the corporate level. Whereas I think Gabby works more directly with the schools. However, I do have a lot of educational experience. I look at it as we're a great source of insight and feedback. Like, I know the process, I know the automotive design process in and out. I know the traditional process as well as how it could be done. So I just leverage all of my knowledge and all of my experience, and I listen. I try to listen as much as I can to what people are saying, what people are asking. All right, so now you can see, I've basically captured the flavor of the sketch in the side view. And what I'm going to do now is kind of skip ahead a little bit, and I'm going to show you a more finished model. This was done off of a slightly different sketch, but I'm just going to turn this off, and then I'm going to turn off Ollie's sketch as well. And I'm going to show you completed model. Oh yeah, I'm going to turn off the package. Okay. So here you can see a fairly completed vehicle. And so this is probably representing, the exterior is probably representing a couple of afternoons, and the interior is a couple of afternoons. So you can see that the level of refinement that you can get to with the surfaces. This has a full interior, full exterior. What's pretty amazing is how when you're working immersively in one-to-one scale, you can really get a sense of the ergonomics of the vehicle. So I can sit in the driver's seat with my, I'm actually looking at the interior in one-to-one scale. I can reach out and grab the steering wheel. I can reach the touch screen controls, and I can see clearly through the steering wheel to read the screen up ahead. So I have really good, really good understanding of the interior space. I can get in the back seat, and I can I can get in and I can feel out, you know, how much space I have. You know, here's my hands on my knees. And I can you know, really get a sense of, you know, the interior ambience, the interior space.
Eric, we have another great question that I was wondering too. How
Yeah.
did you get the graphic texture on the interior door panels?
Yeah, that's a PNG image. Actually, I have so yeah, it's basically let's see, where's the layer here? Okay. Yeah, so you can see it's actually just a two-dimensional image. I brought this in from Photoshop as a PNG with a transparent background. So that's all it is. This is the same image. So it's one of those little tricks. Actually, I have an image of the touch screen. Let me see if I have it here. Yeah. So I don't know if anybody's familiar with the next generation of Apple CarPlay, but I have Apple CarPlay as a reference image. Just make sure I'm on the correct layer here. So yeah, I have. So Apple CarPlay is going to have like this full width screen. So I just grabbed this off of a website, and I can actually map this onto a surface. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a ribbon stroke non-sub-D surface. And just for illustration purposes, I'm going to make it actually, no, I'm going to make it there. So I have this surface, and then now I can just grab the edit points and stretch it around to the full width of the interior. Then I can just add an additional point so I can give it curvature. And so I've now mapped the screen image onto a surface which is sitting on the screen area. So
Is there a way
You
to
know.
control the kind of projection that you have for the images, or is it always going to be a planar projection?
yeah, I mean the only real control you have is you just sort of make the surface. You can see it just came in backwards, and so I'm just going to grab the control points and flip it around like that, and then just start to move it towards the surface that I want. And add an image, add some points in the middle so I can add some curvature to it. You can see the more I warp the surface, the more torque the image gets. So if I back up here, the fewer the points, the better. So since this is already a fairly flat surface, I'm just gonna keep it confined to this area here. But for understanding the, oh yeah, and then I can also give these a reflective material as well. So if we're just understanding the ergonomics of the interior, plus the ability to understand the ergonomics of the interface, and be able to, I can see through the steering wheel, and I can see that I can clearly read the gauges, that the steering wheel design is not obstructing that. I see so many interior designs where the steering wheel obstructs the gauges because they haven't thought about it. That's just like ergonomics 101. But just because it looks good in a sketch doesn't mean it's going to work in a real vehicle. So now I have CarPlay. So to get to sort of the meat of the presentation, I'm going to start to talk about how to set this up in a more realistic environment. So right now you can see we have this very, very basic environment. We have a lot of different environment settings. So if I go into my environment menu, and just to make things simple here, I'm going to switch to another camera view here. Okay, so yeah, so you can see that it's a pretty basic looking image right now. It's good enough to read the surface, and this is great for actually working on the design. When it comes to presenting the design and creating images from it, it's not gonna give you a very, very punchy presentation quality. So I have my environment settings, and there's a lot of different things I can do. First of all, I can play around with the lighting. I can grab this flashlight and I can change the light. You don't see the flashlight. Okay. Sorry about that. I have this sort of chrome shader. So it gives me a bit more of a sort of chrome read. I also have this zebra stripe that's good for evaluating surfaces. But for the sake of realism, we also have the ability to have custom HDR environments. So just like you would you could go to Domable or Polyhaven, and you can download custom HDR environments and bring them into your landing pad account. So you just upload them to landing pad, and so from there I just take the HDR setting here and switch it to the right. And you'll see that the environment has now switched to an outdoor environment. I'm going to turn the foreground off. It's still loading, so just have to wait a moment. But yeah, you can see already now the car is starting to take on the lighting characteristics of the environment. But you'll see there's a bit of an issue here. One is you have the car just appears to be floating in space above the road. That's because the HDR is mapped onto a sphere. So to me, in VR, it looks like I'm standing about 10 feet above the road, or floating 10 feet above the road, and the car is just floating with me. And it's just sort of a random scale. So yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a floor environment. And so in my reference images, yeah, so I created some images of the HDR environment from a top view. I actually did these in VRED, but you could also probably just use a generic pavement texture image. But I also created this soft shadow underneath the vehicle. So the whole point is to make the vehicle feel like it's on the ground. So what I did was I actually combined this image with the floor image in Photoshop before I imported it. So you can see I have this soft shadow image of the vehicle mapped onto the floor. And so what I'm going to do is first I'm going to scale the image up. I don't need this. Let's scale the image up.
Eric, there it
Yeah.
goes. There it goes. Sorry, it was still loading.
Okay. Yeah, so I've got the image, I'm just scaling up to match the size of the vehicle. So the general length of the shadow is about the same as the length of the car. And then I'm just going to rotate the environment 90 degrees. Bring it down below the vehicle. So, and then it's a little bit big, so I'm going to scale it down. And what I'm trying to do is match the position of the tires to the image. So now the car appears to be sitting on a ground plane. And let me just switch that to, yeah, so now the car appears to be sitting on a ground plane. And with the fact that the floor has been faded, the floor image kind of has a fade to it, it blends itself into the environment. So the other thing that I like to do, you'll also notice that the paint looks a bit too much like chrome. So, a second. Yeah, the paint looks a bit like chrome. It doesn't look like paint, and I want to be able to tweak and tune the paint a bit. So, what I like to do is to create a duplicate of the body. And if you're familiar with car paints, there's a base coat and a clear coat. And with a lot of these sort of metallic paints or paints that have a lot of sort of flip-flop to them, there's a kind of a solid base coat color, and then there's this metal flake clear coat that gives it that iridescent quality. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the body here, I'm going to put it on its own layer, and I'm going to go into edit mode, and I'm going to turn on offset, thicken and offset, and what it does is it creates a duplicate surface that's perfectly offset from the original surface. And by grabbing these yellow arrows, I can determine the amount of offset. You can see I've got this little readout that shows me what the offset is. I'm going to take it down to basically 1 millimeter. So now I have this duplicate surface that's 1 millimeter off the original surface. So I'm going to bake that. I'm going to very carefully select the original surface and delete it. And then I'm going to give this a non-reflective clay material. So what I'm trying to do is knock down the chrominess of the original paint color. So I'm basically just going to bring the clear coat layer down over the main body. So that again. Make sure there's no overlap. And I can just take that original layer or take the new layer, I'm gonna call it clear coat. And I can just play around with the opacity of the layer. So you can see just by going to 50% opacity, it's starting to have a much more has a much more sort of paint-like quality to it. So if I just turn the opacity like all the way off, you can see it's really chromy. If I turn it all the way on, it's totally flat. So if I just kind of carefully play around with the transparency of those layers, I get this nice sort of paint-like quality. So now I have this really nice, fairly realistic view of the vehicle that's almost as good as what you would see in VRED. And I can even play around with the colors. Like if I wanted to make it let's say a brighter color, I can just take the original layer, make it, let's say make it red, and then take the clear coat layer, make it orange. You take the transparency down on the clear coat. You can see I can go from a really, really metallic red to a bright orange color. Maybe I take the base coat to orange as well. So now it has a bit of that iridescent quality of a flip-flop car paint.
Eric, I have a quick question about the paint.
Yeah.
So when you put the color of the coat color underneath, and also when you choose the clear coat color, do you prefer to keep it in the same color, or one color is with the color, the other one is white, or two is in different color? Doesn't matter which one you choose.
It depends. You can really experiment and get different, get different effects. For example, if it's a silver, you can choose to make it maybe a warmer silver or cooler silver, or you can make it a brighter silver or a darker gray color. And then if you get into brighter colors, yeah, just experiment, see what it looks like. I think generally, if you go into different color families, you're going to wind up making it just sort of muddy. But just experiment. That's what's really cool about this technique, is you can experiment quite a bit.
Thank you. And also one more question about when you put a clear coat over the original coat. How do you do like so precisely just 1 millimeter offset of the original coat? It's just be very careful, or there's a certain snapping tool?
Yeah, so if I go into edit mode again, and I turn this on thicken offset, and I zoom way in. By the way, that's the way you achieve precision in gravity sketches. You can just zoom yourself way in and make everything huge. But these arrows, you can see what it's telling me as a measurement. Let's see, is it showing you? Okay, it doesn't really show very well. It's interesting. I'm just looking at my camera feed here. It looks like okay. Yeah, let me just pin myself here. Yeah, that's interesting. I can't zoom in as much in Screen Collab. Okay, but generally, if I pull way out on these arrows, you can see the offset that I'm getting, and it's actually giving me a number. So if I want to get it down to 1 millimeter, I just move this arrow till it says 1 millimeter. And that's it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. How are we doing on time? Yeah, we do have a few minutes left. I wanted to show you something else I've been working on. Going back to more of a sketch style. So what's great about this process is I can go right back to a sketch view just by switching HDR, switching back to back to the original HDR setting, the gradient environment. And if I just go into let's go into my 3D sketch. Okay, so where's my 3D sketch? So this is a technique I've been working on. So let's leave the package off. And let's say I want to do some quick 2D sketches. So one thing I can do is I can grab my volume brush, go into let's do another layer here. Go into a flat white. There we are. Okay. So just adjust my environment again here. You can see a little better. So I'm just going to darken the environment so you can see what I'm going to do. So I'm going to take the volume brush and just start to fill in the interior of the sketch. So what I've done essentially is, now if I go back and turn my environment to white, I turn off my mirror, you see I've got just a nice line sketch. I can take this into any perspective and just produce a quick line sketch. And then just like I was able to, let's do that. Okay, now I can see my body side. So now I can just turn it into any perspective and I've got a perfect line sketch. And then, so I have as a reference image, I've created some brush strokes in Photoshop and I've just brought them in as PNGs. And you can actually take, so if I create let's say if I create a ribbon stroke, Yeah. If I just create a ribbon stroke and then I can go into my color selection, I can map the airbrush stroke to the ribbon stroke like that. So I can actually go in and start sketching with an airbrush like I would in Photoshop. So if I lock this layer and I just start adding another layer, if I want to give it a sharper edge, I can just add another control point. That. There, that's looking pretty good. I can, if I want to do larger areas, I can use the surface tool. Let's turn bridging off. Let's just do it. Yeah, so I can just quickly draw surface like that. And then I can go in with a flat ink brush, turn it to polar symmetry, and just quickly sketch out some wheels. Group these and shrink them. So now I've just gone from a totally realistic model to a sketch. So that's what I really like about Gravity Sketches is the ability to treat it as both a sketching tool and as a building tool. You can try something different on this side. I don't hear a lot of questions. Any other questions?
I think we're all just in complete awe right now. I didn't even realize that you could sample from PNGs and use the stroke tool, and I'm just trying to wrap my mind around that.
Same here. Same here.
Yeah, this is something I learned from well, I didn't learn it, I kind of discovered it while I was working with a designer from the 90s who used a lot of pastel. And he used all this pastel and marker in his original sketch style. And he came to me, he wanted to learn gravity sketch. And what was amazing to me is how in just a couple of sessions, he recreated his original sketch style without even thinking about it. Like the line quality and everything was like spot on with like the way he had sketched like decades earlier. And what really woke me up to gravity sketch was not only like how quickly you can create in 3D, but to actually have your own artistic style again.
I think what's cool about this too is it goes beyond just like one specific workflow. This could be used in any industry, you know, no matter what you're creating, which is something that's really awesome about it.
And if I want to, I can start to add some graphics. So let's go back to mirroring.
Jack has a good question. Besides sketching and shadows, are there any other applications for this tool in the sense of, are you thinking textures, Jack?
Yeah, or just other industries workflows.
Yeah, well, we do have a lot of traction in the footwear industry, traction, no pun intended, in the footwear industry. There's a footwear has traditionally been a very 2D process, where you create a lot of elevation drawings to give to the factory, and this has really enabled designers who didn't really have a great 3D tool set before to be able to now work together with the factory. And yeah, it's just been revolutionary for them. So what I'm doing now is just giving a quick surface to delineate, and I'm not trying to model cabin, I'm just trying to quickly delineate the cabin graphic.
In terms of other industries too, piggybacking off of what Eric was saying, we've seen some really interesting use cases in a ton of different fields. We've seen it in illustration, we've seen it in concept design. And one of my favorite things that I've seen lately is live performance art to create NFTs on a stage. So there's this awesome lady who works in Gravity Sketch with it projected on the screen on stage, and takes suggestions and things from the audience while she's creating these NFTs. So, I mean, the possibilities are pretty endless.
Yeah, I mean, now that I mentioned that about creating like live art with Gravity Sketch, I guess it's more of a technical question for the student ambassador program, but are we allowed to, like, let's say, post our workflows in an Instagram or something that just like share with the world, or is there some sort of confidentiality for the student ambassador
Oh.
program stuff itself?
Please post your work. Please post your work and tag us for the EDU account so then we can repost it and like not pimp you guys out, but pimp you out pretty much. Like our goal is to connect you guys to as many people in industry as possible. So the more work you send our way, the more we can help kind of get you guys out there.
Yeah, this is really a way for you to to showcase your work. This is a great forum for you to showcase your skills and your work as you're going through your education and ultimately looking for career opportunities. I mean, it's professional networking, right? So it benefits us because education is one of the key pathways to bringing people into a new tool set, right? When you talk about not replacing, but bringing new tools and new methods into a design process, especially when you've got people who've been doing it a certain way for a long time. Having those new students or graduates coming in, right, and having bringing that new skill set with them, it's a huge boon to it's one of the key ways in which we grow the Gravity Sketch.
Yeah, it's interesting because it actually piggybacks on a great but totally unrelated meeting that we had earlier with our team. And one of the kind of phrases that was thrown out was how Gravity Sketch energizes workflows. And in that same sense, like not only are you guys bringing in these advanced workflows, saving time, being more efficient, but you guys are really the next generation. You guys are the forefront of like all the creative things to come. And so when you guys bring in all these cool skills, it's just going to reinvigorate what's possible in these industries. So the more we can share that with people and get people excited, the better it is.
Sounds great. Thank you.
And so I'm actually now using that airbrush material again, but now to do more of like a pencil like line.
We've got about 5 minutes left, everyone. So if there are any other questions for Eric as he finishes up this part, that would be super awesome.
I have one more question as well. Sorry.
Okay, we'll do Lou, and then Anastasia, I see that you've got questions in there, so I'll read that out in just a second.
Okay, so I go fast. So my question is, I noticed a lot of students, when they drawing the wheels, try to make it more realistic look, and they just import existing model instead of drawing them. That's really kind of limits what you have like online. So if there are like any suggestions, if you want to like custom design a wheel, make it more realistic looking, is there certain like a workflow you recommend?
Custom designing wheels.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because there are a lot of textures in there.
yeah. I mean, Gravity Sketch is fantastic for doing wheels. It's, hang on a second. Yeah. Trying to do some, I'm trying to think and draw at the same time. Yeah, well, I mean, you can see from just sketching wheels to building them that, you know, the polar symmetry tools are just really fantastic. So yeah, I can't go wrong with that.
And then the other question was, have you worked on a project using Gravity Sketch in collaboration with like clay sculptors on a design? And then what did that workflow kind of look like? Because we haven't really talked much in any of our courses about like what it looks like when you actually start getting into the nitty gritty of like the clay models.
Yeah, so I've trained groups of designers and sculptors together. You know, when I was at Ford, Gravity Sketch was still such a new thing that it wasn't too big yet with the clay sculptors. But what I've been finding is that clay sculptors in particular gravitate to Gravity Sketch. They learn it super quick and they love it. Because it's, you know, they're working with their hands just like they do with clay. And they also seem to get Gravity Sketch a lot quicker because they already know what a good surface is. They know what a good surface is, and the interface is so simple and intuitive that they, you know, they just get it quickly. Whereas somebody who has a lot of experience with other CAD programs tend to they tend to have to unlearn a bit. You know, if they're used to working with a mouse and keyboard, they tend to have to unlearn quite a bit before they can really get into Gravity Sketch. Yeah, so anyway, yeah, this has been a lot of fun. Like I said, I just started doing this like a few days ago, this airbrush technique, and I'm just learning it as I go. And I'm literally just sketching.
Any other questions or thoughts?
Thank you for sharing the tools to creating the brush. I think I always wonder how to create kind of marker kind of effect. I guess this kind of brush you created kind of gives that kind of look as well, which is great. I always wonder about that.
Yeah, and I've got another one here that I think kind of starts to capture a little bit more of a marker look, which is this one. So if I start to sketch with that one, it has a little bit more of a kind of a marker look to it.
Oh, this is so cool.
Any chance these PNGs that you're using for it can be available to us through Slack or something?
Yeah, we can definitely. Yeah, I'm going to be sharing this actually with the internal Gravity Sketch team, and we're gonna start to look for ways to bring this in, you know, into the main software. Perhaps it could be just something we have like in our normal color select. Like here we have our basic material, our reflective material, our tune material, our flat material, and our clay material. Maybe that becomes another material.
In the meantime, though, what we can do is I can have Eric share those with me, and then I'll publish them for you guys, so you can just you know, if you want them, you can download them and work from there.
Just out of curiosity, is these markers kind of brush, are they like a pressure sensitive, or are they actually just consistent pressure when you draw?
Yeah, it's not, it's right now it's just simply mapping the image onto a ribbon stroke. So if I want to change the, I'm kind of figuring this out as I go, but basically, you know, if I want to, for example, you know, if I want to tighten up an area, I can just grab these points. You can see how as I'm pulling these points over these points, I get like a tighter edge here. And then, you know, I can just, you know, sort of custom tune it. And then if I just duplicate it, I get a bit more darkness. If I duplicate it again, you know, yeah. So it's like simulating pressure sensitivity, but not exactly, you know, not exactly the same. But yeah, it's pretty fun. Yeah, just figuring it out as I go. So yeah, everything from full-on modeling to just basic sketching, and then just kicking out screenshots. So if I go into my views, you can set viewpoints. So I can take this, now I can take the same sketch and just kick out all of these different screenshots. And I have, you know, all the sketches I need. You know, think about all the time you spend going from front three, you know, trying to sketch the same car in multiple views, right? Now I've got one sketch and I can just turn it to whatever view I want. I only had to sketch it once. Very cool. Any last questions before we sign off?
I just wanted to say thank you, Eric. This has been a really good, oh, actually, there's a question. Are viewpoints available in VR?
Yes. Yes, they are. Yeah, basically you just go into, I'll just pin my image. Okay, so yeah, basically if I want to pick a viewpoint, I go into the camera to take a screenshot, and I can either take a screenshot or I can click make viewpoint. So that's another viewpoint I just made. So I'm going to make a few more viewpoints. And then basically at that point I can go into my tools menu. You can see under here I have viewpoints, and these are all the different viewpoints that I created. I can use my toggle on my thumb joystick to toggle between those views. Or I can, in Screen Collab, I can just click right on all those viewpoints, by the way, just appeared in Screen Collab. So now I can in real time. Just click on all those different views. So now I have a quick sketch that I can show in any perspective. So think about all the time that you're going to save by not having to draw the same car in 3 different views or 5 different views. Okay. Any questions? All right. Very good.
Thank
Well, I
you
really,
so much.
really appreciate you all joining. Feel free to reach out to Gabby and me with any further questions. And I'm very, very happy to be doing this with you. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you so much.